Hey guys, welcome to a new video. We're going to be doing the quarterly book tag. I don't remember if it's like the quarterly book crisis, something like that. I'm going to be answering questions about the first quarter of the year of reading. If you can believe it, we're over a quarter of the way into 2026. And we're also going to be looking at my reading stats provided by Storygraph, not sponsored, but let's get into it. Question number 1 is, how many books have you read so far? This year I have completed 34 books. I am ahead of schedule, which is super promising because last year I did not hit my reading goal. Be right on track and a little ahead, that's always a positive. And I am currently reading 3 books and will be starting a 4th book today. Question number 2, have you already found a book you think might be a 2025 favorite? I have had 2 5-star reads, and those mean they are a favorite, but I am only going to mention one because it did say a book, not 2 books, and that is I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. I read this with my book club. It is a science fiction, speculative fiction book. My favorite thing about this book was the depiction of womanhood, girlhood, and it made me appreciate being a woman so much. I loved it and highly recommend it. Short little book, but it'll be a gut punch for you and just have you want to stare at a wall and think about life afterwards. Question number 3, what was your favorite book you read that wasn't quite 5 stars? And that would be Wayward by Chuck Wendig. I think I gave it like a 4.75, 4.5, something like that. I did really enjoy this book. It is a sequel. It's another sci-fi, post-apocalyptic book. We've had this pandemic that has wiped out like 98% of America, and we are seeing how society arises after that and how there's just so many different demographics of people, and you really just see all different kinds of people and how they would react in this situation. I really did enjoy that, but why it wasn't quite a full 5-star is a lot of the technology and science talk went over my head, where at the end of the series, duology, I'm like, okay, why did this happen? What was the point of that happening? We did get that, but it was a bit too advanced for me to understand. Number 4 is any least favorite book so far. I haven't given a book a 1 star. I haven't DNF'd a book, but the book I give the lowest rating to, which was like a 2 star, somewhere in that category, was Thrifted Hearts. I am not remembering the author's name. This is a short story romance that's available on Kindle Unlimited. I thought this book would have a lot more to do with thrifting, but just all the talks of money and rich people complaining about their problems. It was very out of touch, in my opinion. I didn't care. I don't care about rich people's problems. I'm sorry. There's sometimes it can be done in an entertaining way, but it wasn't done in an entertaining way in Thrifted Hearts. And that was another one that I read with my book club. Question number 5, we will see this in the statistics part of the video as well. It is most read genre so far, and we are actually at a tie, and it is between my 2 favorite genres. That's very exciting, but that is literary and then historical fiction. Historical fiction is the genre that I own the most of, but literary has been my favorite to read recently. It does make sense that both of those would even out together, and I am putting more of an emphasis on reading more literary fiction books as well. Number 6, a book that has come out in 2026 that I want to read but haven't. It actually came out last week, and I'm sure if y'all are watching this video, you're probably on Bookish social media and you've been seeing this book everywhere, and that is Yesteryear. I don't remember the author's name. It's right over there, but my chair is blocking the view. But this one is about a woman who is like a trad wife. If you're not familiar with that term, but that is like a traditional wife. Think of the sourdough bread starters, the long dresses, that kind of thing. She's that kind of influencer. And she gets transported back in time to the 1800s. And we will just have to see how it goes for a trad wife influencer, social media influencer, to get time traveled back to the 1800s, where they do all the traditional stuff that her brand is based on. That just sounds right at my alley. Love social media aspects, love time travel, and that, seeing an influencer time travel, that should be fun. Question number 7, one goal you've made that you're succeeding at, so that I'm having success with, and that is reading those short books. I set out a goal to read the shortest books on my TBR according to Goodreads. And so far this year, knock on some wood, I have been completing my TBR every single month. That is something that I've struggled with the past 2 years in 2024 and 2025, where I was not finishing my TBRs. But this year, so far, every month, I make a list of let's say 4 to 6 books that I want to read every month. And so far, I have been able to complete every single book on those lists. That is so promising to me, and I'm so happy with myself. And I knew that doing these short books would be kind of a refresh for me to help me really just get back. And I don't want to say get back into reading, but make me feel like I'm not behind, make me feel like I'm not in a slump. And as you can see with those numbers, how I said I'm at 34 books read, I am ahead of schedule. So reading these short books has gotten me ahead of schedule, and we can see that it is having a positive influence on my reading. The last question number 8, is one goal to focus more on. There's not one specific, because I do think I am doing quite well with all the goals that I've set out. I guess my seasonal mood reading, that is something that I've started working on lately, of with my mood reading, actually mood reading. I was just reading books that were less than 400 pages, and now I'm doing that with every other mood read. But there are books that I really want to get to, like we talked about yesteryear. That might get added to the stock. That one gives me more of a summer vibe, but let me know if you've read that book, if it's more of a spring or summer. But doing more like seasonal reads with my mood reading, that's something I'm trying to incorporate. Spring has been hard, but stay tuned for the vlogs to see which ones I have added. But let's get to the statistics part of this video. As I said, it's Storygraph that will be showing us these stats, and this is all for the first quarter of 2026. Here we have my books read, pages read, hours listened. I've read 34 books, Austin Matthews amount of books. I associate numbers with things in my head, but okay. Pages, I've read 5,343 pages. That's about 1,000 pages a month, with 140.3 hours listened on audiobooks. And I am an audiobook girly. They're my favorite form of reading, but that's not to say like my 2 5-stars, one was audio, one was ebook. So it doesn't necessarily mean my favorite book's going to be an audiobook. The average time it takes me to finish a book is 9 days. That does make sense. I don't limit myself with being like, I have to finish this book in 3 days. I used to do that, but I don't do that anymore. Now we have my moods. I'm going to read our big ones here. We have reflective, which yes, I want my books to make me think. Emotional, I want my books to make me feel. Mysterious, dark, sad, lighthearted, informative, funny. We have those there. Now we have the pacing and the page numbers. With pacing, 68% have been medium pace. I'm happy with that. I think that's just the perfect place to be. And I do think that one is a bit more of a subjective category. I don't know if this is listed, who chooses that. And then fast and slow are tied at 16%. Again, pretty content with that. Then we have our page numbers, with 63% of what I'm reading is less than 300 pages, which does make sense because I have been focusing on the shortest books on my TBR. 26% have been 300 to 499 pages, which to me, that is the average book length. If we look at these books behind me, I think the average would be in that category, somewhere around 360 pages. And then 11% have been over 500 pages. It does happen every now and then that we read a tome. This is a section that hasn't really been in years previous. It's more of a new segment here on Storygraph, but this is the audiobook length. And as I said, audiobooks are my favorite format of reading. We have a tie for 47% of what I've read have been 8 hours to 15 hours and 59 minutes at 47%, and then less than 8 hours have been 47%, and to be over 16 hours is 7%. What I consider a short audiobook is less than 10 hours, but I don't really go. I used to, if I was reading a tome, I would always do the audiobook, but now my mood reads, I always do the audiobook for. Now we have the fiction versus nonfiction, where 79% of what I'm reading is fiction and 21% is nonfiction. I would like that to go closer to a quarter for the nonfiction. I do read one nonfiction book a month, unless it's November when I read my whole TBR is nonfiction. I just have to play around. My next mood read is going to be a nonfiction. I am going to try to incorporate more nonfiction in my mood reading because there are a lot of nonfiction books that I am excited for. Now we have these genres. Again, I'm just going to read the big ones. As you can see, we do have the tie of literary and historical fiction, followed by romance, contemporary history, LGBTQIA+, speculative fiction, which I have been really enjoying lately, biography, graphic novel, dystopian, and then it just goes on and on. I will take another screenshot just to show you all those lesser ones so you can just get an idea. But art, classics, children's, magical realism, young adult, poetry, mystery, fantasy, horror, memoir, speculative science fiction, short stories, thriller, nature, race, middle grade, lots of different ones. But the format is where I wanted to talk about. I alternate each book I read between formats. I'll read a print book, 35% of what I've read is print. Then I'll read an audiobook after that one. 44% of what I've read is audiobook, and audiobook is my favorite, so I'm glad to see that is the majority. And then after I read an audiobook, I will go read an ebook, which is 21% of the categories here. With the formatting, I've read 5,214 pages and I've listened to 137.9 hours of audiobooks. Digital is the one where I'm kind of like, I think that needs to go up a little bit. I do have Kindle Unlimited, I have Audible, and I do want to make use of those subscriptions that I have. Do need to just incorporate that more, but I think I'm doing pretty well. I always have an audiobook going on with my mood reads, and I always have an ebook going on as well. I don't know what else I could do to make that number go higher. I have not read any author more than once, and all the books I've read have been in English. Now these kind of graphs right here, they overwhelm me. The number of books, pages, and minutes. It seems like March was my biggest month for minutes listened, and my one for pages read was January. And then for books read was January, but for pages read as well was in January. And it seems like January was like my busiest month of the year. Hold on. Yeah. This is overwhelming for me. And then you can see my star ratings and my average rating. So I've written 34 reviews, and the average rating between all these is a 3.39, which is good. But I want it to be great. I want that to be closer to a 3.5, which, I mean, we're only 11 points away from. Might happen. Hopefully it happens. I think with my mood reading, how I'm doing my mood reading now will kind of push that number forward. But my highest rating I've given is a 5-star, and the lowest a 2.25. Those are my quarterly stats for all the books that I've read so far in 2026. Let me know how many books have you read in the comments below. If you made it through this whole video, leave a rain water emoji in the comments below. And as always, comment, rate, and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that notification bell to be notified when all my videos go live. I'll see you in my next one. Bye! If you are familiar with my videos, you're used to seeing Sherman at the end of them. Sadly, Sherman has since passed away, but I would still like to encourage you guys to help your local shelters. Sherman was at the Darlington County Humane Society in rural South Carolina. I always have their link down below in the description if you guys would like to help them, but also help your local shelters as well. You can do that by donating, sharing posts like this one, volunteering, fostering, and adopting, which it's great to do all of those things. Great to help your community, great to help the animals in your community, and I cannot recommend it enough. All of my pets were rescues, they were strays or from animal shelters, and I love them so much, and I know how much love they can give, so knowing these pets at the shelter can equally give that much love, it's amazing. And y'all should totally take part and help out those local animal shelter pets, and please help them.